talk a little bit about the news, Don, because there have been a couple of players in the news here for the wrong reasons over the past couple of months. One being projected starting wide receiver and former Ohio State wideout, Kaleb Brown. He was cited for OWI a couple months ago. It has since been confirmed by Kirk Ferentz that he would be taking on a one-game suspension, but it is anticipated that that will be the end. And Kirk expressed at Big Ten Media Days that he hopes Kaleb has learned from this. He thinks he has learned from this, and they'll move on following that one-game suspension. But ironically enough, just days after Kirk commented on Kaleb Brown's mistake, you had Cade Borud, who is a transfer from North Dakota. He was an all-newcomer in the MVFC last year, transferred in as a walk-on, but I think the expectation is he'll be on scholarship by next year, I think. That would be my guess, given some of his accolades where he was at up in North Dakota. He is from central Iowa, so he was clearly, I don't know this, I've not spoken with Cade, but my guess is Cade Borud was back home visiting family, had a few days off before the start of fall camp today, and then, of course, they reported yesterday. So he got picked up early Saturday morning, and according to a criminal complaint, blew a .177 and a .188, which is over 2 times the legal limit. He was also cited for driving on the wrong side of a 2-lane highway. Also was reported that he was swaying within his lane, driving over a divided line, admitted to drinking, had bloodshot, watery eyes, and failed the walk and turn test along with the one-leg stand. That all according to the Des Moines Police Department. But the bottom line is that's 2 in one off season. I don't know if you go back and look at the data, if that's an outlier or not. My guess is, and I'm trying to think of an example of the last time we had 2 players get an OWI. It's not good, but is there a reason for alarm, Don, or is this just one of those things when you have a roster this big, unfortunately, guys are going to make mistakes and have to learn the hard way?
Well, there's an expression, Corey, you're very familiar with, and it involves the fact that you are your brother's keeper, right? One of my concerns when I heard about our transfer from Ohio State 2 months ago, whenever that was, we're aware, of course, they're young people, they're college students, and they, in so many cases, of course, are old enough to drink alcohol. But the thing we've always stressed, and I'm sure Kirk stresses it too, take care of your teammates. If somebody is not in position to drive, then you have to intervene. You have to take care of your teammates. You have to be sure they don't get behind the wheel, because they might not only hurt themselves, they might hurt some innocent person in another car. So what concerns me is, for one reason or another, these 2 guys, now the new guy from North Dakota, he wasn't even on campus. He clearly wasn't with his Iowa teammates on that particular night. So I blame his old buddies from back home. Again, you got to take care of your friends, take care of your teammates. So what concerns me about our Ohio State transfer is that it makes me wonder, was he by himself that night? Were there any teammates that were even in position to tell him, you're not going to drive, I'm going to drive, or I'm not going to let you drive, we're going to call a cab, whatever. You got to solve that, and you got to be sure that you protect each other and you prevent each other from being stupid, because they're only in their early 20s, and if they're human, they are always in position to maybe make a mistake. So that's why it's so important for your teammates to take care of you, and vice versa. So that's disappointing to me. It makes me wonder how many teammates were in position, if any, were in position to call him out on that and not allow him to drive. I don't know. Maybe no one was in position to do that. It's still a concern, because that tells me when he has free time, he doesn't spend it with teammates and friends that are on the team. I don't know. It's just a concern, being out late at night all by yourself. That's not good. Well,
here's the other thing, and mistakes are going to happen. I went through when Kaleb Brown got picked up for OWI. And by the way, this is going to sound weird. I think it's good that these young people got arrested for OWI. Because if you're getting behind the wheel and driving and doing that habitually, something bad's going to happen. And so, Don, I hate to say this, but chances are, percentages would tell you that if Iowa has 2 guys that got picked up for OWI, there are a number more that have driven drunk over the past 6 months. And that's just, people do that. And people die all the time because somebody is behind the wheel intoxicated. So I agree with you. And I said this after, and I kind of got ripped for it. But when Kaleb Brown got picked up, I said, is there a silver lining here? Well, there are a number of silver linings here, because hopefully, even though you don't want to have to learn the hard way, here's a lesson that obviously needed to be learned. And so apparently it wasn't enough for Cade Borud to learn. But at the same time, you don't want to throw these kids to the side because they are kids. I'm sure Kirk was disappointed, especially given, nowadays, Don, the media attention that comes with a starter and Kaleb Brown who gets picked up for OWI.
Right.
You'd hope that everybody else in the team is on their very best behavior, especially a guy who's just transferred in to what I presume to be Cade Borud's dream school in Iowa. But again, these are young people. They make mistakes. Here's an unpopular take: drink in moderation, and this isn't a problem. Drink in moderation. Seems like, I get your take, Don, and I agree. I mean, if you've had too much to drink, get somebody to get you to drive, but have self-control to not drink too much in the first place. But I know that's an unpopular take for college-age kids. So we don't have to spend a lot of time on this, but those are my 2 cents. Anything to add, Don?
Well, my hope for Kaleb, certainly there's something wrong with him if it's not a wake-up call for him. Hopefully it's the kind of thing that'll never happen again for Kaleb. But my hope also would be it serves as a wake-up call for teammates that are able to say, oh my gosh, I think I might have been over the limit last Saturday night too. And I'm going to learn from Kaleb's mistake because I'm not going to put myself in that position again. You mentioned, is there anything wrong with having a beer? Well, I believe a beer is not going to put you over, 0.08?
And I'm guessing 2 beers. I don't know what. First of all, Cade Borud blew a .177 and a .188. That is not 2 beers for a 300-pound offensive lineman.
That's a lot of alcohol.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah.
So, again, is what it is. You hope these guys learn. He'll most certainly will get a 1-game suspension, and that won't really affect Iowa on game day because he was not going to start unless somehow Logan Jones goes down with an injury, Tyler Ellsbury goes down with an injury. This young man wasn't going to play until probably 2025. So, hopefully you look back at this a year later, you learn from it. Jamari Harris is an excellent example. Here's a young guy who's made some mistakes, but he's learned, I think, from his mistakes, and here he is leading the back end of this defense.
Coach, I got a question about the code of conduct policies. Like a month or 2 ago when Kaleb Brown got arrested for the OWI, DWI, whatever it was, I saw a bunch of people in YouTube chats and on Instagram chats and stuff saying, kick him off the team. He doesn't belong here, blah, 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 this and that. And I'm just like, do you guys ever think about rolling back some of these code of conduct policies that are suggested by the general public? Because to me, the general public, if they had their way, there would be nobody left on the Iowa football team after a while, because every time someone made a mistake, half the general public is calling for them to get kicked off the team. So, I mean, at what point do you say, forget the general public's opinion, we're sticking by our guys here? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I mean, Kirk is going to do what Kirk's going to do, Don. I don't think he cares what the general public says. It's funny you say that, Josh, because I remember a couple of years back, I don't remember who it was. It might have been Amir Smith-Marset. It was someone, and I remember recording one of my preseason shows with a buddy of mine, and I didn't discuss this topic before we went live on the air. And this buddy of mine, who I didn't expect this response, he said the same thing. He's like, well, I think you got to be kicked off. That's a really serious thing. Everybody has a right to their opinion. It is a serious thing. But, Don, I think that's going very extreme. And Cade Borud, first of all, Kaleb Brown serving 1 game. Kirk has confirmed that. Cade Borud serving 1 game. Kirk's not going to take into account what the public thinks about these things.
I think maybe we need to remind some people that coaches are glorified teachers. And obviously, you've got to be sure that whatever action you take, that it has a positive effect. They're penalized, and yet they're not thrown away and treated as roadkill. They're given a second chance. And I know what Coach Fry used to say when we came to Iowa. The university had a policy: 3 strikes and you're out. And Coach Fry said, "We're not doing that. You're just giving a guy more rope to maybe hang himself." But if it's something that's not a grave mistake on the part of the players, he'll remind anyone that's interested in talking about it. They're young people. They're finding their way. They deserve a second chance, unless it's really, really serious, of course. If you take someone's life, that's a problem, and you should never be allowed to even walk the streets, much less play football, if you kill someone because of your misconduct. But if it's something that's less serious, give them a second chance. Let them know you're not going to get a third chance if you make that same mistake. Something as simple as operating a motor vehicle, being over the limit. Maybe the first time they're 0.18, the next time they're only 0.10. It doesn't matter. You were given a second chance and you messed up again, you're done. I would be willing to bet you another OWI will absolutely be the end of their career. I think Kirk will probably give him a second chance, but not a third.